Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. My name is Sarah, and in today's video we're going to be going over the creation and editing of RFIs within your RedTeam Flex database. So within our RedTeam Flex projects, there are two ways to navigate to our RFI creation window. The first being the home icon, where we can click here and simply come over under Performance Management and click on Requests for Information. The second being the Dialog tab. I can simply click on the Dialog tab and use the new icon to get started with a new RFI from here. Now, this RFI creation feature is available as early as the draft stage of any project. So no matter what stage of the project you're in, unless you're in closed, you'll be able to go ahead and create RFIs to send out either during pre-construction or construction. So I'm going to go ahead and click the new icon, which opens up my list of document templates. Now, your list may not be quite this extensive, but certainly every RedTeam Flex database comes with a certain number of standard document templates, and one of those is a baseline RFI. So we can go ahead and choose our baseline RFI right here. So I'm just going to choose our standard RFI. This is the same template you'll be seeing as a default within your database. But of course, as you can see here, we can add as many document templates as we want within the configuration menu of our database if you have multiple types of RFIs that you may be sending. Now we get this full screen pop-up window, which is going to allow us to fill in the basic information that's required to generate the RFI, add any attachments, and then view the document to make sure that it looks right before we send it out. So in order to get this RFI generated, we need to fill in at the bare minimum all of the items here that have an orange asterisk. So some of these items without the orange asterisk are optional. The first one here being issue, which is an optional feature. We can go ahead and add issues or topics of discussion from our list of open issues for this project. Now, this project doesn't have any open issues yet, but if I did, I would see them in the drop-down, and if I have the correct permissions, I would also have an option here to add a new issue, and I can add new topics of discussion as I create these RFIs, and that just allows me to track documentation and discussion that may happen through RFIs and meeting minutes surrounding a particular topic, such as, for example, restrooms. But I don't need to select an issue if I don't want to. Next, I've got the ID number here. This is simply tracking my RFIs sequentially. This is letting me know that this is the first RFI that I'm creating for this project. The created date will fill itself in as today. I can either type in a new date or use the calendar to edit. My required date works the same way. This is the due date by which I require an answer for this RFI. So we're going to go ahead and push that out to the end of next week. We have our author here. Depending on how your document template is set up, this may autofill the name of the person filling it out, or it may autofill your project manager's name. But either way, you have access to all employees in your database here under the author section. So you can go ahead and list any of your employees as author. You also have some settings available for your RFIs that allow you to determine whether you'd like to be able to list vendors or third parties as authors as well, if that's something that is part of your standard workflow. As for recipients, our default setting allows customers and third parties to be recipients for your RFIs, but again, for each document template, you can choose who's allowed to be a recipient. So if you typically send RFIs internally to other employees or out to vendors, you can allow them to be seen here in the list as well. But I'm going to go ahead and send this to my customer contact. I can add as many CCs as I would like on this RFI. If I hit add, I have the ability to look through all of my team member contacts on this project, and I can simply check the box for all the folks that should be included. Notice I've also got filters up at the top to filter down to a subset, or a search bar to go ahead and search for folks by name. Once we've added our CCs, some document templates may have this received from section turned on for an RFI. It's probably not going to be a part of your default RFI template, but should you wish to turn it on, this allows you to add additional CC contacts that you would identify as the originator of this question. So if I'm passing on a question on someone else's behalf, I might tend to use this received from field to indicate who asked that question originally, and I'm passing it on their behalf. Our description here is mandatory. This is essentially the subject line or the title of this RFI. I'm going to go ahead and use restroom fixture selection, but you can type in whatever you'd like here. Next is your reference section. Not required, but you do have the opportunity to type in a reference, whether you want to reference a particular document or spec section, or in my case, I'm going to simply say, see attached photos. Then we come to the most important part, which is our question. And to fill in our question, we have to hit the update button here. This is where we type in what we're asking. We can copy and paste this from another location. We have some formatting capabilities up top, or we can simply type in a very simple question. So I'm going to type in, please select restroom fixture finish from the attached photos. Right, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking my customer to go ahead and pick the restroom fixture finishes. Lastly, I have the opportunity to include a suggestion here. And that's not mandatory, but if I'd like to voice my professional opinion on what I think the best way forward or the best answer might be, I can type into this text box here and simply say that the bronze option has the best wear life. Right, so I think that's the best option for them, and I'm explaining why. That's what suggestion is intended to be used for. And finally, before we move on, we want to take a look at this company confidential checkbox, which allows us, if we check the box, to keep this RFI off of our project reports and to determine which employees within our company are allowed to view that RFI, because of course by permissions we can determine who's allowed to see company confidential items and who is not. Then we'll move on to our next step, which is simply the ability to add attachments. This step should look pretty familiar if you've been using any of our document generation within RedTeam. Almost every document you generate has a step like this that allows you to either link to something that's existing within the project. This takes you to your project documents folders and allows you to come find something such as a page from your plans and specs or photos from your job site. And you can go ahead and checkbox the items you want to attach and click attach right here to quickly and simply add them without having to upload them a second time. You've also got your drag and drop feature here, or your browse, which allows you to find files that are on your computer. So I'm going to go ahead and find a few files that are on my computer. I'd like to include some of those fixture finish photos. So here they are. We'll go ahead and select them and hit open. Notice I could have also dragged and dropped those within the dotted lines here. It goes ahead and fills in the description or the caption for each of these files using the file name, and I can adjust that if I'd like. It'll also let me know if one of my files is not an allowed file type. So I can go ahead and remove this one that is a web page because that's not an allowed file type. And once I have all the files that I want, I simply click Start Upload. Once I've uploaded all my attachments, I move on to the final step, which is confirmation. And this allows me to go ahead and review the information here. I can view the document, that draft RFI, if I'd like to see what I'm going to be sending out to my customer contact before I send it. I can create an action item if I need to pass off next steps to someone else and ask them to review this RFI before it's finalized. Or I can add some notes for myself or others to see later regarding this RFI. But if I don't want to do any of those, I can simply close the form. And then this dialog tab is going to refresh and show me my draft RFI right here. So I can see the form type and the number right here, along with the title. And at any time, if I'd like to come back and edit, I can hit the pencil while it's in a draft status to make edits. Now once I'm done making any edits, I can hit the tools icon to commit this as a final copy. But notice while it's in draft, if I'd like to scrap it entirely, I do have the ability to delete it, and those are both permissions dependent. The last thing we want to see here within our RFI video is the ability to adjust some of those preferences that we talked about. So project-specific preferences here, you will have the ability to adjust a few things regarding your RFIs. So if we come here and type in RFI, you're going to be able to set your required date here, the number of days you'd like them to have to respond. This will be standard. So if I said 4 days, then that means 4 business days from the creation date of an RFI. We will auto set that as the required date. You can also choose here who's allowed to be an author and who's allowed to be a recipient. You can see there our default settings are customers and third parties as recipients, and service provider or employees as authors. But depending on your workflows, you can go ahead and select for each different document template who's allowed to be an author and a recipient, and you can set up reminders here. But that should be all you need to know as far as how to create and edit your RFIs here within your RedTeam Flex database. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.